What's up, everyone out there? It's your boy Ceddy of Ceddy Knows Tech, and today we're going to talk about Apple's new M1 chips and what that means to you as electronic consumers, especially if you're in the Apple ecosystem, and basically why these machines will revolutionize the computer industry, and why is Apple just whatever they do, they just seem to be winning, and Microsoft just keeps losing. They just keep getting dealt L's everywhere they go. Microsoft cannot seem to win or catch a break. Why is that? Well, your boy Ceddy will kind of get into all that. But before we do, you know what time it is? Cue my intro. So at the WWDC, actually of last year, which is the Worldwide Developer Conference from Apple, they host this event every year to kind of talk about what they're working on and kind of give developers some insight into what's coming. Apple announced that, you know what, we're done with Intel. We're basically separating ourselves from Intel, and we're going to build our own custom silicon, which is basically our own custom processor. So what does that mean? Well, Intel, like forever, have been the de facto standard for chips. Most likely, if you bought a Windows machine, it has some kind of Intel chip in it. If it's not an Intel chip, it's an AMD chip. Those are probably the two biggest ones out, especially if you bought computers or Windows computers within the last decade, if not way longer. But Intel is known for the Pentium chips, the i-series chips, and things of that nature. And Apple have been with them for about 10 plus years also. About before that, Apple was, they had their own, the PowerPC, then they went to Intel, and that's when they've been with them for about 10 years, I want to say. If I'm not, it might be a little longer, but I know for at least 10 years. And things were going decent, but the problem was that Intel was not holding up their end of the deal. We have had problems with Intel for quite some time, especially in departments of thermal throttling and things of that nature. Intel was just not delivering what was needed and what was expected. They were missing deadlines, and they were just not doing what they needed. So companies have begun to look elsewhere, and it has happened. Intel is in trouble, bottom line. Now, will they go bankrupt and be out of business anytime soon? No, but Intel has a lot of competition on their hands. On one side, they have stiff competition from now AMD. AMD is killing it right now with their Ryzen chips and their Threadripper chips. They are just dealing, Intel just L's everywhere, losses, because they have stepped up. AMD has stepped up and delivered a chip that does better in the thermal throttling area, as well as just raw processing power too. So you're seeing more companies now, delivering their new computers with AMD chips. Even Microsoft, the new Surface, wasn't that Surface laptop, but the new Microsoft laptops, the 13 and 15 inch. Some of them now have even some AMD Ryzen chips in them and so forth. And they are awesome chips. Asus has their new gaming laptop, the G14. It's Ryzen chip, absolutely kills it, crushes the competition when it comes to the things that it can do. And Intel, and a lot of people looking at Intel like, dude, what are you doing, bro? You were the leader of the pack, and you now looking like you don't know what you're doing. And that's what it does look like. It looks like Intel is just losing touch with reality or with themselves. And I don't know if they're just trying to sit on their name. We're Intel, so we can't be changed. I'm like, that's a lie, bro. AMD is eating your lunch every day right now, and it's showing. Another chip competitor with them is ARM chips. Now, ARM chips is a different instruction set, and it uses different code and all that kind of stuff to build a software, but they tend to be more efficient, more power efficient, and so forth. And Apple has become very well versed in this department. Apple has been developing their own chips for a while now in the iPhones and the iPads in particular. And when you think of ARM processors, a lot of times those processors you are currently using one most likely in your phone. And you're probably saying, wait a second, Ceddy, you telling me that these computers now have phone processors? How's that going to compete with a full-blown processor like Intel? Ceddy's here to tell you, that's what I'm saying. And I'm also here to tell you that these chips are eating Intel's lunch, point blank. For Apple, Apple's been doing this for a minute. You know, this is not no small thing for Apple. Apple has been building their own chips for their iPhones and their iPads for a while now, but within the last probably about 4 or 5 years, Apple has really stepped up, especially in the iPad department. Because you use your phone as a phone and you might play games and stuff like that, but people, well, since 2018, I want to say, about 2018 when Apple released that chip for the 2018 iPad Pros, that's when people for the first time was like, whoa, this iPad can actually replace my computer. And then when Apple turned around and released iPad OS, that kind of gave the iPad more desktop, full computer-like features. That kind of started to seal things for Apple, like in, we don't need Intel anymore. We don't need to keep paying Intel their licensing costs and then passing that on to the consumer at higher prices to get a decently spec computer for our lineups. So Apple's out. Apple said, you know what, we're out, we're done. So what does that mean to you is that now, for if you're a MacBook person or iMac, Apple has completely let go of Intel. From this point forward, moving forward, every computer that they release will now be their own custom silicon chip. And these chips are absolutely killing it. I don't know how to say that in any other way. I'm not going to regurgitate a whole bunch of numbers and stuff that you can probably see online 1,000 places, but from a realistic standpoint, these chips they're killing it. They are, and I know this is going to be subjective. I know there's going to be some hardcore Intel nerds, but these chips are delivering some death blows to the Intel chips. I just say it. From every aspect of it, not just in particular, if you do word processing in this shit. No, I'm talking about everything. From doing videos and, rendering videos to development. That's my area. Developing things like that to 3D modeling. Because with this chip is also now Apple's now able to also build their own, or at least customize their own graphics chips as well. So they don't have to depend on anybody now. Apple is free of any dependence. Before, Apple, the reason why Apple computers work quote unquote so well is that Apple was able to customize every little detail about their computers to ensure that their operating system and the components of the computer work hand in hand. The only thing they weren't able to really customize to any great detail was the chip, like the video card along with the processor. That's changed now. Apple literally now controls every aspect of their desktop and laptop computers, from all the components that they add to the board or to the computer, to the processor itself, to the RAM and everything. And they did this through what's called an SoC, which is system on a chip. And basically everything is tightly integrated. Before, every little your input, your output, your RAM, and every little component of the part was always kind of spread out through the computer on different little chips on your motherboard. That's no more. Everything has now been kind of encompassed into a single unit, a single chip, and everything's more tightly integrated now to allow for Apple to be able to now optimize every little single detail, memory management, RAM, everything. Now the downside to that is that things like the Mac Mini, where you used to be able to upgrade your RAM, you can't anymore because it's now part of the SoC itself. So you can't do anything now custom. You as the consumer can't do anything custom to the computer anymore because it's now all part of that single chip. So now before it was like buy what you really need and don't necessarily go for the cheapest, but buy what you really need. Now you really have to buy what you really need because there is no customizing these devices once you buy them. You just have to get another device if you want that. So traditional computers are still, if you're into that kind of thing, especially gamers is heavily into that. Yeah, I still won't recommend these for straight up gaming. But I mean, if you want a straight up gaming machine, you still want to get a Intel, Windows laptop, because that's going to allow you that level of granularity to upgrade your computer as needed. Nothing's changed about that. But these custom CPU chips from Apple are killing it, and Apple has labeled this new chip called the M1. So it's Apple's M1, and it's killing it. It's killing it right now. So I gotta see what it's about. So I picked up a MacBook Air and the Mac Mini. And that's another cool thing about this new setup, is that before, if you want to buy a computer, you had to think about, okay, what processor do I want? How powerful do I want my processor? And things like that. You don't have to think about that no more. The same chip that's in this Mac Mini, the same exact chip that's in this Mac Mini, is also found inside this MacBook Air, which is also found in the new MacBook Pro. There's a third computer out here that you don't see, because I got the Air, but there's also the MacBook Pro, it's the 13-inch MacBook Pro. All of them, they have the same chip, the new M1 chip from Apple. Same M1 chip. And that's awesome, because you no longer have to worry about, am I getting the best, or have buy two more because I didn't buy a stronger processor. They're in everything. They're the same chip that's in here, is inside of here, which is inside the MacBook Pro. And as Apple keeps evolving this chip, it's going to be kind of the same way, through the lineup and so forth. So that's a good thing too. And because now Apple controls everything about this computer, these computers are killing it. I'm talking about speed, battery life. We're talking about battery life that's in that like 18 plus hours. You heard me right. 18 plus hours of battery life coming off this MacBook Air. It's like 20 hours coming off the MacBook Pro. Now, of course, that depends on what you're doing, but I've been using these for about a couple weeks now. I've done video rendering, I've done development, I've done gaming with like the new World of Warcraft, Shadowland. I throw it at it, this thing's just eating up. It's just killing it. Things I could not do with my Intel MacBooks, I'm doing with ease now with the M1 MacBooks. Tell me how that's possible. And Apple is just killing it. Absolutely killing it with these chips. You can go to almost any review about these new Apple MacBooks and desktops and laptops, and we're not us tech enthusiasts and early adopters. We're not just shocked. We're literally blown away. We're like, how can this actually be? And how can this actually be at the price point? When the last time Apple to be affordable? Not this particular one. This particular one cost me $8.99, which is still well below, the Apple tax that a lot of people got used to. You can get the intro level of this. When I say intro level, it's just the hard drive size. This is a 512 hard drive with 8 gigs RAM. You can get I think 256 gig hard drive with 8 gigs RAM. Wait for it. $699. You heard that right. $699 for a Apple computer. Yes, $699. Apple computer. That has happened like never. And that's because Apple's able to now build their own chips, so they don't have to license that cost off to Intel. So we're gonna start seeing Apple, hopefully, but the Mac Mini is beginning to show that the price is beginning to drop some, because Apple don't have to pass that cost off to you, because they have to license it from Intel. And when I say this Mac Mini is killing everything, I've done everything with this computer. Developing, rendering, even some graphic work and stuff like that. And I'm not a graphic designer, but even some of the best graphic designers I know that's on the internet and stuff like, they are all migrating to these Mac Minis and these MacBooks, because they're like, dude, they're cheaper, better battery life, more power efficient, and they still run their older applications. And that's a big thing when it comes to this, with these new computers, but they still run the Intel programs. So let's talk about that. So you're probably saying, Ceddy, what do you mean that it still runs the old applications? Okay. These are now ARM-based computers. They're not Intel anymore. They're ARM-based. They're basically built by Apple. Intel computers run, the Intel X80. It's called an x86 architecture, and on that architecture, you can run certain code sets, and that's what the old software for Mac and Windows applications, I should say, they're built around that. So, and the two instructions, the two chips, ARM and Intel code, really don't talk to both of them. But what's happened is Apple has built what is called Rosetta, and in particular Rosetta 2, because back in the day when it was PowerPC and they moved to Intel, they had Rosetta to do the same thing, kind of translate from PowerPC to Intel, so that until all the companies updated their software, companies, people who have invested in older software can still run it. Apple is doing that again from Intel to now their own custom processors. So if you have like an older piece of software, when I say older, I'm talking about yesterday, because not everybody has updated their applications to work with these new chips. So in the meantime, there's a translation layer that's called Rosetta, that it'll run the application or run through Rosetta if need be, and then execute so that you can use it. Now with that comes degradation. You gotta think about it. It's translated from one language or one instruction set over to another. There's gonna be some degradation in speed and performance and things of that nature. But that's what's crazy about this. Apple has done such an awesome job with this computer and the Rosetta 2 translation layer that there's programs, no lie, I'm not BSing you. There's programs now that's running better through Rosetta 2 on these computers than it ran natively on the Intel computer. How the heck does that happen? I'll tell you how that happened, because Apple is on their P's and Q's and they are just killing it right now. That's the reason why. And anybody who says that Apple is doing a poor job or these computers are all hype, those people are just haters. I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, I said it. Fight me. No, not really, don't fight me, but you know what I'm saying? But anybody who says that these computers, take the fanboy. Let's take the fanboy out of it. Take the fanboy, kick him to the curb. Take the fangirl, kick him to the curb. Let's just talk tech right now. What Apple has done is migrate from one processor and instruction set over to a whole nother processor instruction set and made it seem seamless. Another company that tried to do this and failed? You guessed it, Microsoft. Microsoft tried to do the same thing with their Surface Pro X line. They too are tired of Intel. They are. They yes, our operating system runs on Intel, but you're hurting me right now. You're not allowing us to do what we do best, which is our operating system and some of the apps and so forth. And people are being disgruntled. So we want to try to maybe we can make ourselves independent of anything else, and we can only depend on ourselves to put out the best product. So what Microsoft did with the Surface Pro X is they built a processor, so like what Apple did, but they did it with Qualcomm, and they built a chipset called SQ1, and now today the SQ2. They also try to build a translation layer to handle, because like I said, you need a translation layer. You need something to interpret this stuff when you go from one processor type to another processor type. And they try to do that through their emulation and translation technology, and it straight sucked. Parents, I'm sorry if your child's nearby, but it sucked. I can't emphasize that enough. It was horrible. That's what I can say. And they only ran 32-bit applications. And I know you probably say, I don't know what that means. 32-bit applications is an older, more legacy type application, because most applications and computers today are much faster, have more access to memory and things like that. So they run what is called in 64-bit mode. They're 64-bit computers that run 64-bit operating systems. That just means they can do a lot more things more efficiently, more effectively, like access memory and all that kind of stuff. So when you see 32-bit stuff, that's usually because they want to make sure that their apps can run on older computers or operating systems like that. Microsoft, we talk about Microsoft. This is supposed to be the king of software and services. Microsoft released this thing. The translation layer sucked. It was horrible. Yes, did it work? I guess that's a matter of speaking, I guess you could say. Because did it work from a working capability? Yeah, it ran. But that's all I can say about it. It ran. Like Photoshop, for instance. Photoshop was so dog slow on those computers. It was horrendous. I'm like, gaming was, take that out the picture. You're not running no games on that. And it only ran 32-bit applications. Apple, this is Apple. This is not Microsoft. Microsoft is the king. They're enterprise. They're supposed to have this stuff on lock. Apple comes in and said, hey, we're gonna do the same thing that you did, Microsoft. We're gonna move from Intel, we're gonna kick Intel to the curb, see ya. And we're gonna go with our own custom chip, hello. And then we're not just gonna do that, but we're gonna build a translation layer that works. And not with 32-bit, with everything, 64-bit as well. And when it works, it's gonna rival what was there before. That's big talk from a company who's, up until recently was not known for their, processors and stuff. When people think of Apple, they think of music, they think of their iPods and iPhones. You don't think, a lot of people don't think enterprise and, that kind of stuff. But Apple did it. Apple has made Microsoft look like a pure fool in this front. Let that sink in for a second. A company, that was known for their beautiful computer designs and luxury items, because iPhones, I got money, I got an iPhone. That's what a lot of people still think. I don't know why, that's stupid, but whereas Microsoft was a company that was like, we're a business app, we are the enterprise of the world, we run the enterprise, which is true. Microsoft systems do run a lot of businesses and stuff like that, but you would expect more from Microsoft. You would expect more from that top dog. And when they come out with it, everything's broken. This is Microsoft. And no, this is not a bang against Microsoft. I am not bashing Microsoft. I'm just giving you the facts. And I will debate anybody to the ground that would try to tell me that Microsoft is somehow better now than Apple. This right here has crushed or disambiguated any kind of ambiguity that you might have thought that was between Microsoft and Apple, as far as being Microsoft is still the king somehow, because they can't get it right. They can't get their own updates right, yet alone architectural CPU migration. Yeah, so these systems are killing it right now. That's the big. So when you hear a lot about what's going on with Apple, I have a lot of people come to me and say, "What's this about Apple? Why is everybody so, up and whoo about Apple right now?" That's it. Apple has revolutionized the market. Because what's going to happen now? What is going to happen now is that these companies, HP, Dell, Lenovo, Asus, Apple, all these companies, they're looking at this like, oh my God, did you just see what Apple did? Yeah, I did see what Apple did. How the hell did they do that? And they said, wow, wait a minute. They was able to get rid of Intel for ARM and make their computers better. Maybe we should try that. Yeah. That's why I think Intel is that's my dog down there. I think Intel is in control. If Intel don't do something, and I ain't talking about just no, okay, we got it. We'll do our job. No, that ship has sailed. If Intel doesn't do something to rival this storm that's coming from AMD and from this Apple and ARM and period, I think we're gonna start seeing a kind of turn where you're gonna see Intel kind of hit that back and way back, and you're gonna see AMD and ARM come to the forefront, and it's gonna be night for Intel. And I don't know, is this gonna happen overnight? No. Intel has too much of a hold on the market right now for that to just happen overnight, but it don't take long. It only takes a few versions of this for things to start switching over completely. And a good indication of this is how I know that this will succeed, is not just by just the straight numbers and performance factors that myself and every other tech enthusiast has come out and said, but also companies like Adobe and game companies like Blizzard. this thing ain't been out a month yet, and already Blizzard has said, you know what, our new game, World of Warcraft, yeah, it's ready. It's ready to go. Download it, run it. Google themselves have said, you know what? I think this system was out for like 3 or 4 days, and Google came out with a ARM-based browser, a Chrome, just for the Mac. Just for the Mac. Let that sink in for a minute. When Microsoft released their computer, Google didn't give a crap. Google was like, psh, whatever. They didn't come with a custom browser, a Chrome to work with just, there was some that was in beta and all that, but it still was a strain on the system. But Google came out and said, here, Apple, hey, yeah, here you go. Here is a custom built browser just for your new computer. Mwah, love you too. Yeah, they did that. And Adobe has already said that they have their Creative Cloud Suite ready to run on these machines, and they'll be out, I don't say anytime, probably sometime early to mid next year. But the Surface Pro X has been out well over a year now. You heard Adobe say, yeah, we'll get to it eventually. They didn't do nothing. When Apple did it, companies follow. When Steve Jobs was living and came out and said, you know what, we're not supporting Flash no more on our devices. Within like 10 years or 5 years so, Flash was dead. Let that sink in. When Apple moves to a standard, a lot of companies follow suit. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. That is a fact. And so now that Apple has not just moved to this new, shift of infrastructure and technology and so forth, they've implemented and it's been a banger. You can guarantee that you're going to see more moves like this from other companies, and it's going to revolutionize the computer industry. You're going to see better, faster, longer battery life computers, laptops, and so forth that are more efficient and so forth. And it's going to just change, and it's going to be all good for all of us consumers because we finally get laptops and desktops that can do things that's not limited to the issues that Intel has imposed. So that part. So I'm looking forward to it personally. And if Intel can't do their job, then I guess it's time for you to get going. Hashtag death to Intel. Because I don't have a thing against Intel. This is not me griping or hate Intel. But if you can't do your job and do it right, especially if you're a leader, it's not like you're some third party that's, nobody really uses except for a bunch of, niche market. We depend on Intel for our machines. So if you can't do your job, then you got to go. And if somebody like Apple or AMD can do a better job than you, then I'm jumping on that boat because I need my machine. This is how I make my money. This is how I support my family. So if Intel can't do their job, sayonara. So that's what's going on with this right here. So yeah, the form factor hasn't changed. I said it still looks like a Mac Mini. It still looks like a MacBook Air. But under the chassis of it all, you're going to see some impressive things. And that's the reason why Apple is winning right now, because they're willing to step out there and do things that are future-proof. Not necessarily future-proof, but are forward-thinking, I should say. That's forward-thinking and take risks. While while Microsoft is kind of, I don't know what Microsoft is doing, to be honest with you. I honestly don't know. They done screwed up their doggone Surface Duo, their Surface Pro X, the doggone Xbox Series X. I'm not gonna say they screwed it up, but I think this is my last video, one of my last videos. Why is Halo not available on the Xbox Series X? And that's your premier game. That's your game. That's you, dude. That's you. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know what Microsoft is doing. They're screwing up. That's what they're doing. And they keep this up. They're going to allow companies like Apple and, and all these other, these sub little companies that's doing services. They're going to push them on, they're going to push their own selves out the market to a certain degree. I don't know. It'll take time, but Microsoft has got to do something different. This can't keep happening. You can't keep pushing out things and there be glaring holes in your products, not small holes. Surface Duo came out. Beautiful device, buggy as all-day software. I couldn't even use the dang thing hardly. It kept crashing, things not resolving properly. Then you got to wait on Microsoft to push out updates to fix it. Nobody wants to go through that. I don't want to spend $2,000 on something and got to wait on you to now fix it. Surface Pro X, same exact thing. Beautiful device. Come out, can't run any of my software. It's like a Chromebook. I'm not spending $2,000 on a Chromebook. If I wanted a Chromebook, I would have spent $500 on a Chromebook and been happy. Nothing against Chromebooks. They're beautiful devices, but they're not cost me $2,000 either. Like a Surface Pro X was. Well, I got the top of the line, of course, but you know. Xbox Series X. Beautiful device. Love it. Had no launch titles really that displayed, that kind of really showcased that, from at least from an exclusive standpoint, to what they're working with. Sony did a great job. Miles Morales, boom. They had a game, Astro, my son plays it, boom. Nothing from Microsoft. So that's the reason why Microsoft keeps getting dealt L's, while Apple is #winning. That's what it is. So with that said, that's basically what this M1 chipset is about. So if you're probably looking on the news, you see all this hype and talk about the new Apple and what they're going to do to revolutionize the computer market. That's what this is. And it started with these machines here, the M1 Mac Mini, the M1 MacBook Pro Air, not MacBook Pro Air, MacBook Air. And then there's also a 13-inch MacBook Pro. They're all running the Intel M1 chips, and they are doing excelente. It's awesome. So if you get a chance to pick one up, I've used them extensively now since they come out. They're definitely worth to look at. So if you enjoy content like this and want to see more of it, please consider hitting that subscribe button and that bell icon. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up. It helps the channel a lot. And I thank you for watching. And as always, until next time, stay geeky, stay techie. Ceddy